Hello, everybody. This is AIPS. This is the first time in history the AIPS e-conference celebrating the International Sports Journalist Day, July 2nd. So welcome. Good morning, good day, good evening. Now we are waiting for more than 850 registered journalists, sport journalists from all over the world, from all the continents to be with us today. We counted more than 140 countries. Thank you for that. Stay with us on Zoom or be with us on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, live. This e-conference will be divided into two parts. The first one is about two main themes in the world now, COVID and racism. And the second part is open for you, for your thoughts about the themes, world of sport journalism, or AIPS. Please, prepare your discussions or questions and be aware that we are not having all the time in the world. So please, be precise, be short. The limit time is 3 to maximum 4 minutes. And please, stay muted all the time, unless you are talking. We will unmute you. When the second part starts, if you want to talk, just raise your hand virtually. In the Zoom program, you have this button which is called raise hand. So take it and be with us. The official languages in AIPS are English, French, and Spanish. So be short, be precise. Again, do not unmute yourself in any time during the first part. So after this short introduction, let's start with our first guest star. Or should I say, with our friend. I don't need to introduce him too much. Mr. Thomas Bach, the president of IOC, and his message to AIPS.
Dear President of the International Sports Press Association, Mr. Gianni Merlo, dear AIPS members, dear friends, the fact that I can only greet you virtually is itself a reflection of the unprecedented situation we all are facing because of the global coronavirus crisis. While we are all living with uncertainty, it is clear that this situation is having profound implications for everyone in the Olympic community, as well as for you, sports journalism. The world of journalism and the world of sport have undergone many changes since AIPS was founded 96 years ago. But few have been as far-reaching as the historic decision taken only a few months ago to postpone the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 to next year. Even in these unprecedented times we are all living in, there is one thing that remains constant, and that is the important role of the press and the media carrying the important message of unity and solidarity of the Olympic Games to the world. We are only beginning to understand the far-reaching consequences of this crisis around the world. Your conference today therefore comes at an important moment in time as you look to set the course for the future of sports journalism. Let me thank everyone at AIPS under the great leadership of President Gianni Merlo for the important work that you do to bring the values of sport to a global public. In our fragile world, we need these Olympic values more than ever if we are to come together to overcome this crisis. In this Olympic spirit of determination and of hope, I wish you fruitful discussions and a successful conference.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bach. Nice words, right from the heart. And now we are here again to see what your host will have to say. Mr. Gianni Merlo, the president of International Sport Journalists Association. Mr. Merlo, please.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody, dear colleagues. We are here to celebrate the 96th anniversary of our association in one of the most difficult moments in the history of mankind. In 1924, the journalist who founded IPS has had a vision. Now we are facing the worst possible scenario for our work, but we must have a new vision for the future to continue the path of modernization and defense of our profession that our predecessor has started. It is not so easy, but we must study new solutions. I experienced personally the lockdown of COVID-19 in a red zone near Milano. From my window, I could see the deserted street with the silence broken only by the ambulance siren. And I can tell you that is very difficult. They were sending you a message of fear. From news of social media, I was informed that friends of youth were killed by the coronavirus. Families have not even seen them since hospitalization. Funerals were prohibited. Some families receive an urn with ashes to cry on at home. The death toll was increasing day by day, worse than in a war. After 2 months, the good news was yesterday we have only had 100 dead. Can you imagine? Only 100. Now we see the end of the tunnel, we hope, but the future is not certain. During that terrible period, we continued to work and to have also launched new initiatives for young colleagues, such as the college, because only an investment in culture can create the condition for a better and future reconstruction. We were struck by the enthusiasm of the young colleagues, their desire to learn, to defend the independence of our profession. Racism has returned to the surface, and we will continue our battle against all discrimination. After this appointment, we will launch a seminar on the 21st of July dedicated to women still that are in a ghetto in our profession. The panel colleagues will offer us a picture of what has happened and possible solution for the reconstruction. Now, the big problem is the access to the sources. COVID-19 has dramatically changed working conditions. The virus brought us to our knees. Many colleagues have lost their job. Others have seen their wages cut in half. Newspaper and website have closed. The effect of the virus has been devastating. There is now a timid awakening in Europe, but the rebirth is still far away. Sports are still limited, so our live work is also limited. During the lockdown period, newspaper, website, radios, television were equipped to revisit the story. They did an excellent work, quality job. But now we must continue to maintain quality. And to do this, we need to be able to have access to the sources, which the lockdown has made even more problematic. Federation, club, and various sport organizations have closed our access at the beginning of the pandemic justly for security reasons. But now that governments are reopening, it is necessary to review many accreditation criteria. We respect security reasons, but when we make our legitimate request to return to work with access to sources, and we are told that certain access bans are placed to defend the privacy of athlete and manager, we cannot believe to this excuse. There are those who, with privacy as an excuse, intend to hide unclear plans and operations. For this reason, since everyone in sport world, in our world, rightly say that athletes are and their needs must be put at the center, we ask to be able to discuss with them directly the rules to be followed, because we need a open discussion with them without the filter of agent and sport managers. No federation has ever offered us this opportunity, and the time has come to open a new chapter. Correct access to sources is the only way to combat corruption, match fixing, manipulation of results, and doping. We must all work together to build a new future. Of course, perhaps the sporting reality will be a little bit different compared to what we have experienced in the past, but it represents the new reality, and we must adapt, as has happened in every process of evolution in the history. The important thing is that the basic principle of sport, such as transparency and credibility, are the same, because they are immune to any virus. We have to think about this, and because we have made a big investment in culture, now we want to show you some detail regarding the third edition of our AIPS Sport Media Award. So let's see the images.
And we are back. As I mentioned on the beginning, please stay muted. Do not unmute yourself. We will unmute you. And if you don't see by these videos, please just press the button speaker view. And as I mentioned at the beginning, two big problems have been messing with us in the past few months. But one of them is much older and dangerous. It is racism. To have life without racism means also to have sport without racism. And we would like to reach that point. The way is not and will not be easy. Anyway, about racism, it is best to hear from our AIPS Vice President from Kenya, Ms. Evelyn Wata.
Thank you, Yura, for having me. Buenos dias, good afternoon, bonjour, wherever you are. Despite a difficult period, it's nice to be able to join our colleagues from all over the world to celebrate this day. I will begin my intervention with some quotes from athletes. In 2019, I witnessed injustices and inequalities in my life as a Black athlete, a Black woman, and a Black runner in America. I've been told that as a Black woman, I can't be super emotional and to be mindful of 100% of the things I'm saying during interviews. I've been told, don't speak too loudly and don't come across in one way that might convey you as a stereotype of an African-American woman. Those are the words of Delilah Muhammad, who's an Olympic champion and world record holder over the 400 meters hurdle. It doesn't matter what I do or accomplish, how kind or good a person I may be, how educated or well-intentioned I am. There are people out there that seek to do me wrong because of the color of my skin. That's Dina Asha Smith. She's from Great Britain, the world 200 meters champion. That was reported by the Telegraph. My parents explained to me when I was young, those things are going to happen, and you'll just have to be the bigger person and keep moving. That's Ian Simon, I'm an American footballer, as quoted by the ESPN. An anonymous basketballer claims and says, the NBA felt like being in a zoo. He shared how he felt fans treated them for the first time, yet they have been in sports for many years. Just a minute, please. And then there was this headline by the CNN. This footballer was racially abused by fans and then banned for 6 months. You know, when I read all this, I kept asking myself, would we have written or read these quotes and headlines were it not for the context of the Black Lives Matter movement? It is concerning that most of the athletes are opening up on racial discrimination for the first time. Yet they've been in sports for so many years, an environment that is considered safe and welcoming. Did we ignore or assume the discomforts as sports journalists? It's clear sports is not a united front, or the great equalizer it should be. In 2015, a study by the University of Missouri found that Black athletes received 1/10 of the morally successful stories in the media compared to white athletes. The Black athletes are usually described as brats and spoiled. We have seen racist criticism of Black athletes from Serena Williams to Raheem Sterling in the Premier League. We as a sports media, we must continue to exert pressure to make sure that the voices of the athletes and administrators who are facing any form of discrimination, be it racial, gender, or religious biases, and even ethnicism that is very common in most African countries, are heard. But sometimes it may not be easy to confront racism or inequalities or any other form of discrimination in our sport when we cannot deal with the problem that is within our media industry. In an article in the Colombian Journalism Review, the writer noted that it was titled Confronting Racism Within the Press. And the writer noted that far too many powerful people in the media approach racism as a bias or a one side of an argument rather than as a condition of life. The writer simply acknowledged the power of the media to lead against this problem. However, the silent issues are bypassed. From my own experience as a sports journalist, even amongst familiar work and corporate circles, many of my colleagues, some of you, and even outside the AIPS, they find it easy to describe me as the Black one. You know, I'm the Black woman, not even the journalist from Kenya or the AIPS vice president. To use the word Black as a collective noun is okay, but as an adjective, it leaves a bitter taste. We as sports media, the sporting federations, and even sports associations like the AIPS, we must move beyond the diversity and inclusion panels when we hold our conferences and seminars or congresses, just for the sake of it. Even as we entertain and inform on our pages and sports bulletin, we must take a lead on the anti-racist front. The tone, content of our coverage must not reproduce racism or discrimination. We must push the custodians and administrators of the sport to work harder and faster to fix any form of discrimination. We have seen footballers walking away from the field of play. Some have taken a knee. We've seen hundreds of athletes now taking knees because sport has not done enough to fight racism. I will end on the words of Chris Grant, the Sports England board member. He said that it is not the job of athletes to fix the problem of racism in sports. And I urge you, colleagues, as we have fought against racism, against illegal betting in sports, doping, corruption, we must also fight using all our tools against racism. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Eve. And
Thank you.
when you got an invitation to this e-conference, you could see that we put COVID-19 at the center of the conference. So we asked several editors-in-chief from all over the world to give their impressions about it. And you know what happened? They all agreed to be a part of it. We must thank all of them. The first one from that list will be Mr. Drizi Lassini from Moroccan Al Muntakab newspaper, sorry. Mr. Lassini is also president of Moroccan Sports Press Association. Mr. Lassini, the floor or the Zoom is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Chers collègues, Gianni Merlot, président de l'AIPS, Excellence, Monsieur Thomas Bach, président du Comité international olympique, chers confrères, consoeurs, aimable audience qui nous suit et assiste à cette visioconférence via les réseaux sociaux. Tout d'abord, je vous transmets les salutations distinguées de vos confrères journalistes sportifs marocains ainsi que leurs vœux les plus sincères de continuation du succès. À l'heure où nous célébrons la Journée internationale de la presse sportive, l'humanité tout entière vit un événement exceptionnel et sans précédent dans son histoire contemporaine. La pandémie de Covid-19 qui aura sans aucun doute de nombreuses répercussions négatives sur les médias sportifs mondiaux. De ma position en tant que journaliste sportif, rédacteur en chef d'Al Muntakhab, l'un des prestigieux journaux sportifs marocains, je salue chaleureusement l'initiative de l'AIPS pour avoir initié et organisé ce débat mondial visant principalement à développer une future feuille de route pour les médias sportifs mondiaux au-delà de la post-pandémie de Covid-19, un débat où la parole est donnée aux acteurs de cette profession pour faire part de leur vision et de leur avis sur le plan de relance de ce secteur. Chers confrères et consoeurs, mesdames et messieurs, l'entreprise médiatique Al Muntakhab, laquelle j'ai l'honneur d'être son rédacteur en chef depuis 1986, connue par la publication bi-hebdomadaire du journal papier et une publication électronique, s'est alignée sur le choix difficile adopté par les principaux médias spécialisés dans le sport pendant la pandémie de coronavirus, celui d'employer ses références journalistiques et son expertise dans les domaines des médias, ainsi que sa compétence dans la production du contenu pour offrir une matière journalistique de qualité. Je ne dévoile pas de secret si je vous dis que ce service médiatique, qui était caractérisé par l'offre gratuite de la version électronique de notre journal est principalement destiné aux lecteurs condamnés à rester chez eux pendant la période de confinement, représente une sorte de sacrifice et une manifestation de citoyenneté, lesquelles ont fait l'objet d'une expérience merveilleuse et passionnante malgré toutes les difficultés rencontrées et la souffrance financière que notre entreprise a dû vivre. Chers confrères, et consoeurs, mesdames et messieurs, notre présent assez troublé devrait être le point de départ d'une réflexion collective, nouvelle et sérieuse sur l'avenir à court terme des médias sportifs, car notre bataille future, en tant que presse sportive, vise à créer un système de protection contre les pandémies et les catastrophes naturelles et à approfondir notre partenariat avec les institutions sportives et les institutions économiques qui investissent dans le sport, de façon à ce que ce partenariat soit basé sur des règles solides et légales qui couvrent les deux parties. La créativité, la grande capacité à résister à la pandémie de coronavirus et à défier le silence des temps qui dominait les stades du monde, dont fait preuve la presse sportive, à l'instar de notre journal Muntakhab, affirme que les médias sportifs acquièrent une immunité contre les crises, innovent même quand ils saignent, résistent même si leurs capacités sont affaiblies par la sévérité des chocs et sont en mesure de gagner le pari de la survie. Chers confrères et consoeurs, mesdames et messieurs, ce qui viendra après la pandémie de coronavirus est une nouvelle ère des médias sportifs pour laquelle nous devons nous y préparer tous, tout en tirant les leçons nécessaires et améliorant le contenu médiatique et en le diversifiant et en l'enrichissant afin qu'il réponde à tous les goûts et qu'il se conforme à la polyvalence imposée par la modernisation des médias. Au sein de notre institution médiatique Al-Muntakhab, nous nous préparons pour la prochaine étape en mettant en place une future stratégie qui vise à placer notre journal au centre de transformations majeures que le monde vivra et que les médias et le sport seront témoins. Une stratégie dans le but d'améliorer les performances professionnelles, de diversifier le produit médiatique et en étant présent dans tous les domaines des médias modernes, écrits et audiovisuels et dans toutes les plateformes et les réseaux sociaux. Ce que nous avons vécu pendant la pandémie de Covid-19 nous pousse à mettre en place de nouveaux modèles relatifs à la production du contenu pour assurer une large base de consommation plutôt que de cibler des lecteurs et auditeurs et téléspectateurs spécifiques. Nous nous trouvons dans l'obligation d'abandonner tout ce que nous pensions auparavant être des principes professionnels et fondamentaux auxquels aucun compromis ne devait leur être appliqué. Tout sera nous amène à changer par la force majeure de la pandémie de Covid-19, la mise en page, le mode de la production, les niveaux d'emploi des médias de com, l'identité visuelle et la langue du discours. La seule exception que nous devions tous garder à l'esprit est bel et bien la ligne éditoriale, car si nous la perdions, l'identité de notre publication sera perdue. À vous tous, je renouvelle mes remerciements de m'avoir donné l'honneur de vous parler depuis mon pays, le Maroc, qui vous aime tous, ensemble pour la pérennité des médias sportifs crédibles, professionnels et sérieux, sans lesquels le sport n'a pas de vie. Fier d'appartenir à notre grand édifice médiatique, l'AIPS. Merci de m'avoir écouté.
Merci, Bedreddin. And now let's go to Ghana. With us is the managing editor of Africa Sports newspaper and the president of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, who is also a TV commentator, Mr. Yeboah.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, cherished members of AIPS. With nearly 11 million infections of the coronavirus COVID-19 across the world, a generation has not witnessed a level of perplexity as this. In Africa, South Africa leads the rate of infection with 15,000 cases, whilst Ghana has 18,000 cases, of course, with impressive recurrence. Irrespective of the figures in respective African countries, the impact of the novel COVID-19 on sports journalism, I guess, is the same. In Ghana, for instance, and I guess by extension, the rest of Africa, the pandemic has disrupted work and adversely affected sources of income for the sports journalists. The lack of sports activity means the withdrawal of advertising revenue, which has led to many pay cuts, delayed payments, and in some cases, total layoffs. The worst hit in our case would appear to be our freelancers. In Ghana, for instance, Several sports commentators for who the Ghana Premier League was the main source of income have had a really tough time. Television producers have been compelled to cut down productions and laid off staff, as other media houses have also been compelled to sack some staff. And as the president of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, I receive calls on a daily basis from distressed members for assistance and direction. Betting companies were some of the biggest advertisers in countries like Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and largely East Africa. With some leagues on hold, it has meant strenuous financial times for many sports journalists. For a lot of Africa journalists, the total cancellation of the Africa Cup of Nations, which is a massive deal for Africa journalists on the continent, means potential financial stress for many. These indeed are awful times for sports journalists in Africa. Personally, I've been the regular host of Sports Highlights, Ghana's prime weekly sports show on the national broadcaster, Ghana Television, for the last 26 years. During this period, never has the program suffered such debilitating loss of revenue as this period of COVID-19. The total absence of any sporting activity in Ghana has also meant we've had to be transformative, as most television programs have been reshaped. The newspaper industry in Ghana is one of the worst hit by this pandemic. Even in so-called normal times, the industry suffered as readership dwindled due to a variety of reasons. Today, most newspapers are compelled to rely on the benevolence of philanthropists and big money bucks, with attendant threat to the independence of the media, as these powerful barons set their own parochial agenda. While I may struggle to admit my own independence has been compromised, as the newspaper I've edited over the last 36 years, the Africa Sports, is no different from the plight of most sports journals. Regrettably, as I write this piece, almost all Ghana sports newspapers have folded, save one or two, because of the coronavirus. And indeed, some of my colleagues have been compelled to take the rather challenging and bitterly unbelieving decision to continue to work without any form of salary or income until the return of normalcy. The pillars of journalism we all appreciate hinges on total objectivity, integrity, and probity, ingredients that are free from introversion and servility. The harsh cold reality is that we have been compromised because of the coronavirus pandemic. And the independence of the profession has never been in such grave danger. COVID-19 means a paradigm shift for journalism as we look at digital migration for television broadcasting. There may be more television channels and self-broadcasts like Facebook Live, YouTube, and so on. On the bright side, the current situation has exposed journalists to the benefit of digital platforms and the benefit of working with new tools, among others. The continuous digitization could also have adverse effects on our workforce as we confront this deadly disease. And such is the novel case of the pandemic that we've had to work together. In that specific case, the Sports Writers Association of Ghana have had to acquiesce to the demand of the government to hand over the clubhouse to be used as COVID-19 isolation center, which we have gleefully done. Hopefully, demands which may directly border on our independence and freedom would not be made. My fervent prayer is that the new normal, which is really crippling our profession, will soon pass as a vaccine is found to end this current hell. Until then, we can only keep our fingers crossed. And with your indulgence, let me wish all sports journalists across the world a happy day for the sports journalists. Thank you very much for your indulgence.
Thank you very much. And now it is time for America. There is a lady who has a professional CV longer than we have time to read it. She has been to 18 Olympic Games. She is a columnist, commentator, have written 7 books, and still have time to share her thoughts about the COVID situation with us. She is Christine Brennan.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Thanks so much, Johnny. Thanks to you. Hello to all my friends. I'm smiling as I see all these wonderful faces around the world. It is an honor to be here with you. I'm speaking to you from Washington, D.C. this morning. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. You know, we are in extraordinary times, an era that will be studied by students 100 years from now. And sports, of course, are a big part of the conversation. The answer to the question that Johnny and AIPS has posed is yes, sports journalism is being changed before our eyes in ways big and small. There's no doubt about it. It's obvious our world will not be the same as it was before. And that is very sad in many ways. Travel, business, health, it's all changed. And sports are woven into the fabric of our society in such a way that they will be changed as well. As journalists, the past 3 months for all of us have been extremely important and even fascinating, if I may use that word. Of course, heartbreaking and tragic. We so wish it had never happened. But now that we're in it, as journalists, we are dealing with what the hand that we've been dealt, as they say. And for me personally, this time has been the most interesting of my entire career. Again, even though I so wish we were not in it, because it has required ingenuity, critical thinking, longevity, and calling on sources more than ever before. And I think that's an important point to make about those of us who've covered this a long time. We have those sources, we can call them, we can be in touch with them, we can break stories, as I've been honored to do, and so many of you have been honored to do during this time. Uncertainty is everywhere, and that means there are important stories everywhere. With no games being played, or few now starting up again, the hard work of the journalist is more vital than ever. What does this mean for the future? I know we're all concerned, worried for our colleagues, worried for our friends, worried for the craft of journalism. It will be difficult, obviously, to attend sporting events as they open up. So there will be more coverage from afar. That doesn't mean we can't break news and do investigative reporting. Of course we can. We just have to work harder and use our experience to get big stories and to help those younger journalists understand how you work those big stories. We all want to be on the scene, of course we do, and hopefully we will be again soon, especially to go to Johnny's fabulous parties at Casa Italia. But for now, Zoom should not be a barrier. Let's say that again, Zoom should not be a barrier to our work. It should be a stepping stone to great stories. Yes, I'm an optimist, and I do believe that we can get that work done, even if we are far away. Questions still need answers. And many of the questions that face us are fascinating questions as we move forward. For example, the Olympics, our beloved Olympic Games. Will the 2021 Tokyo Games and the 2022 Beijing Olympic Games happen or not? And I realize that the 2020 Tokyo Olympics in 2021, but for the sake of making it clear, they will be, of course, in 2021. Will they happen or will they not happen? I think that's an open question. And if they do not, what happens to the athletes? It's heartbreaking to think about that. To national Olympic committees, to sponsors, to the TV rights holders. How do the games even carry on in this environment? Of course, I certainly hope they do, and I think they are a wonderful vehicle to bring our world back together again. But will sports become little more than a TV show, with many fans deciding to stay away, at least in the short term, or being told they have to stay away, as we're seeing in sports around the world that have come back? Will Olympic TV rights holders push for those Tokyo Olympic Games with no fans because they have to have an Olympics because of their economic concerns? Will the sponsors push for that, potentially spectatorless Olympic Games? For most people, the Olympics really are a TV show anyway. They watch at home. We are the lucky ones that get to attend the Olympics. Will spectators continue to possess considerable disposable income and want to spend it on luxury items, such as sports tickets? Will we continue to tolerate in our world, and I'll speak for the United States with all of our pro sports, the exorbitant, the huge amounts of money being paid by cities for stadiums and arenas, when we could be spending that money on education and other things in our cities? Or of course the Black Lives Matter racial issues that are so important now in our country. And the exorbitant amounts, the huge amounts being paid to athletes, coaches, and managers. Having seen how important doctors and nurses and those on the front lines are, will we finally say enough is enough for all this big money? Does this eventually even affect Olympics rights fees? Of course, I'm asking lots of questions. We don't have the answer. But will people say they just don't want to see this kind of money floating around sports, or does it keep going up, up, up? I also want to add, what happens to our coverage of women's sports? Women and girls are playing sports around the world in numbers that would have been unthinkable even 20 years ago. We must continue to chronicle this important historic development, and it is historic. It's not just sports, it's part of our culture. A couple more things and I'll be finished. How do news organizations survive in these economic times? We need to find business models to monetize online content and keep independent journalism as a vibrant and vital pillar of our society. That is so important, so important. And of course, it's not just the pandemic. The important Black Lives Matter protests will continue into 2021 and beyond. That means we will see them at the Olympic Games, assuming we have the Olympics. We are expecting most US professional teams, most US college teams, if we have sports, and most US high school teams, if we have sports, to take knees this fall, to take a knee, if in fact there are sports in America. Sports journalists play an incredibly unique role in covering this huge story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina, for all your questions. I hope we will find the answers soon. In Mexico lives a man who started his communication career with a bicycle, distributing the local gazette in his neighborhood. Today, he is well known for his work on television and in Football Total magazine, among three with the highest traffic in Mexico. His name is Carlos Ponce. Carlos, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor and a pleasure for Record to be here and discuss these themes on these special times. I want to put a new proposal to tell stories about sports. Adoptar una renovada narrativa para inspirar. Contar las grandes hazañas de atletas y equipos ha sido la esencia del periodismo deportivo, más la investigación que se desarrolla para alumbrar los rincones oscuros que interesa conocer al aficionado. Para entender lo que sucede en este ecosistema, en la industria de las pasiones, que se adapta como pocas a utilizar los nuevos formatos para contar las historias. Hoy tenemos que encarar una nueva transformación, adoptar una forma distinta para comunicar durante la gran pandemia de nuestro siglo. Con todos los retos que esto implica, los contenidos necesitan un cambio en su formato, en la narrativa, para además de ser relevantes por su información, que hoy sean útiles al lector durante la contingencia. Debemos abrir mayor espacio a otra manera de contar las historias, poco utilizada en los periódicos y espacios de noticias duras. Una que construya una idea urgente en el aficionado. Podemos salir de los peores momentos. La fórmula tradicional, que aún es efectiva para alumbrar los lugares que desconoce el ciudadano, que pretende eliminar la incertidumbre, es una mezcla entre noticias generalmente críticas que revelan el lado oscuro con una evidencia que lo sustentan. Nos dan cuenta de la realidad de nuestro mundo desde una narrativa negativa, aunque realista. La primera respuesta que aparece para cambiar esta narrativa a una positiva es una fórmula que nos entrega de primera instancia resultados ilusos. Soñar con un mejor futuro, pero ignorar o subestimar la evidencia que se contrapone a este ideal. Es decir, nos entrega contenidos absurdos, inservibles. Así, necesitamos una renovada fórmula para construir narrativas más adecuadas durante esta contingencia. Una que se sitúe justo a la mitad, tomando lo mejor de ambas y agregando un factor necesario en esta época. Encontrar un propósito transformador, un factor que genere un cambio en nuestros lectores. Inspiración. Así, identificando un motivo de cambio, agregamos el entendimiento profundo de los obstáculos, más la evidencia que sustente que esos obstáculos se pueden resolver, y tendremos una narrativa que mejore la vigente, que inspire a nuestros lectores, sin despegar los pies del suelo, es decir, enfrentando los problemas actuales. Un gran ejemplo que nos entrega un área amplia para construir este tipo de narrativa son los reactivados torneos profesionales, imposibilitados para desarrollarse en el peor momento de la pandemia, pero que ya hallaron respuestas para poder volver al campo, a que el balón se ponga de nuevo en movimiento. Contar cómo lo lograron, qué era necesario hacer para superar este reto, sin dejar de atender los peligros que esto implica, ayudará a darle historias que iluminen a nuestros lectores. Uno de tantos ejemplos que tiene el amplio mundo del deporte. El periodismo deportivo se ha desempeñado desde su origen en un terreno recurrentemente que nubla la lógica y el criterio del aficionado. Estamos en la industria de las pasiones, que exalta los sentimientos. Pues toca aprovechar ese escaparate que nos ha hecho relevantes ante los ciudadanos para demostrarles que sí se puede atravesar esta pandemia, que hay luz al final del túnel, sin dejar de advertir las amenazas, contando cómo lo han logrado los héroes y protagonistas de este ecosistema deportivo. No solo es necesario para quienes nos leen, también para el medio, el periodista lo va a posicionar de nuevo en el lugar en el que se ha llegado a dudar, especialmente desde la óptica de un aficionado que se siente, se descubre algo nuevo de su equipo, el atleta que puede creer que es algo personal, contra destapar algunas de las duras verdades. El periodismo deportivo a encontrar las respuestas que la sociedad busca, en estos momentos complicados que estamos hoy. Gracias.
Gracias, Carlos. And after America, the alphabet is moving up to Asia, to India. Mr. Sandeep Dwivedi has been working for the Indian cricket. Several years ago, he was awarded with India's most prestigious honor of sports journalist, the Ramnath Goenka Award. Mr. Dwivedi, your time.
Hello everyone, I am Sandeep, sports editor of the Indian Express, a leading English daily with close to 25 million readers here. I live in New Delhi. I stay not far from the stadium which hosted the 1982 Asian Games and the 2010 Commonwealth Games. My city also has an iconic cricket stadium that's next to the ruins of a Mughal-era fort that's actually very close to my home. We as a nation are obsessed with one game, which is cricket. For people who don't understand cricket, I'll just give you the scale. Just think of Brazil's love for football and multiply it by 6. Why 6 is, if you ask, here's the maths. Brazil's population is close to 200 million, I think. Yeah, we are 1.20 billion. To understand our scale, first imagine 1 billion people and then add an entire Brazil to it. That's India for you. You don't see many of us on the Olympic podium, but trust me, in case you include cricket, you might see us much more often. But in other sports, we are improving. Best ever medals tally is 6. That was at the 2012 London Games. We are now world class in shooting, wrestling, badminton, but the Olympic top 10 is still a distant dream. But medals or no medals, we remain a very sport-loving nation. We love watching sports. And take my word, Manchester United Football Club would have more fans in Mumbai than in Manchester. It's because of this mass following that sports journalism is a preferred career choice for many in our country. It isn't just a dream job that can get you the best seat at the stadium. It can pay your bills also. But a few months back, when the virus struck, things changed. While the majority of the world is recovering from the virus, in India, the surge is relentless. The death count is increasing in New Delhi, where I stay, and we live in constant fear. The stadium near my home, where I have covered countless games and have always looked forward to going, isn't the place it once used to be. It has been converted into a center for corona patients. Hospital beds at stadium, that for me, unfortunately, best symbolizes the present health of sports. No one is immune to the pandemic. The newspapers are shrinking. Every day I hear about sports journalists losing jobs. Never ever was there a more urgent need to stress the importance of sports. We need to make the world understand that the tide will surely turn and we need to remind everyone that the relevance of sport is a time-tested reality. Once the virus is tamed, we will need sports for sure. Sports is something which connects people. It is an icebreaker for millions of socially awkward youth. For example, a Mo Salah gives an Indian and an Englishman, an Egyptian, or a Malaysian a common language. We as sports journalists need to remind the world about the post-war 1948 Olympic Games and how it changed the mood of a nation. We need to retell the stories of the racehorse called Sea Biscuit or the greatest ever cricketer, Sir Donald Bradman, and how they brought cheer among the masses during the Great Recession of the 1930s. For the message to spread, we will need the collective strength of the sports journalistic community. And that initiative can't be just a signature campaign or a petition on change.org. Journalists must do more for other journalists. A financial first aid is fine, it is necessary, but sports journalists need a credible platform to be heard. In a nutshell, they need jobs. Maybe a constantly updated dashboard on the AIPS website informing out of work sports journalists of employment opportunity could be a good start. This unprecedented situation can also threaten something that is very precious to all of us, our independence. Of late, a disturbing trend has surfaced. Sports officials and player agents have increasingly tried to monetize the access to the star players. Freewheeling interviews are a rarity these days. Most interactions these days are conducted in the presence of media managers, agents, or both. Such interviews end the minute an uncomfortable question gets asked. We need to tell the stakeholders that the regime of tight control is pushing the athletes into an echo chamber that is cut off from the reality. Healthy criticism ensures healthy athletic ecosystem. In the corona impacted economic environment and the shrinking job market, can we as sports journalists challenge the officials and the agents? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure about it. Don't get me wrong. These officials and agents could be our next employers. Can we stand up to them? That's the decision we have to take. The road ahead is very tough, and it was really thoughtful for the AIPS for organizing this talk. There is an urgent need for a dialogue with the sports body. The wall of mistrust needs to fall. Like the football team that is trailing, we all need to go in a huddle. We need to come up with ideas to survive this personal and professional attack on us by the virus. Let's hope for a last-minute winner from the sports journalist. Thanks a lot, friends, for listening.
And thank you very much. When you know about someone who is a member of the IOC Press Committee, it is a great honor and achievement. This man I will introduce to you is also a part of AIPS jury for the AIPS Awards and now leads Kyoto coverage of the Olympic Games in Tokyo. He's also my friend, Mr. Shinsuke Kobayashi.
Thank you, Jura. Dear friends, colleagues, when the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games were postponed until the summer of 2021, it was quite shocking for many of my fellow journalists in Japan. An Olympic editor in my news agency, who had been working hard since the Games were awarded to Tokyo in 2013, lamented, "This is like being told to run for another lap in a long distance race when you were turning the last curve into the final stretch." And there is even a possibility that the Games might not take place at all, and he can't reach the finish line if the situation with the pandemic does not improve. Not only for the athletes, but also for journalists, this is rather difficult to cope with mentally. I suspect many of us kind of lost focus a little after the postponement was announced. Of course, it was not only the Olympics and Paralympics that were affected. All the sporting events came to a standstill. No baseball, no football, or no sumo wrestling during the months of April and May. There was also an appalling news that a 28-year-old sumo wrestler died from the coronavirus. Sports journalists did not have events to cover and lost a press box to work at. We can only work remotely using phones and the internet. Things started to look a little brighter when the government lifted the state of emergency on May 25th. The professional baseball opened the season on June 19. The J-League resumed on June 27th with matches of J2 and J3, while the top tier J1 will restart on July 4th. However, like anywhere in the world, the life is not the same as it was before. We have to live and work under a new standard to prevent the spread of the virus. Both baseball and football were played behind closed doors, and the working conditions of the journalists were far from ideal. The J-League set the maximum number of writers who can get into the stadium at 25. This will apply not only to J2 and J3, but also to J1. That means when J1 resumes on this Saturday, there will certainly be some of our colleagues who will not have the accreditation to enter stadiums. Last weekend, in order to keep social distance and minimize contact, journalists were only allowed in the press tribunes. The press working rooms were not in use, and after attending Zoom interviews from the Tribune, they were asked to leave the stadium. They were not given enough time to write their stories at the stadium. In professional baseball, the measures were taken not by the league, but by individual teams. Some are more generous to the media, while others put tougher restrictions. The teams with bigger stadiums and larger facilities are more relaxed with the admission of the media. Some teams prepare auxiliary press seat in the stand. We don't know how the policy would change, however, when they start to bring in the spectators to the stadium from July 10th. As a first step, 5,000 fans are allowed to attend each game. Women's professional golf tour also held their first tournament of the season during the last week of June. It was played without spectators and without media. It was not televised either, but the main sponsor of the tournament was determined to hold the event, and this company even paid to create the moving images, which they put on YouTube for free. So print media could follow the action on YouTube, and there were interviews of the players after the rounds using Zoom. We're trying our best to cover sports and present them to our audience with a limited access and limited freedom in this era of COVID-19. We cooperate with the organizers as much as we can. This is an extraordinary time and everyone is not sure what the right solution is. But I think we have to be careful that people do not take advantage of this situation to limit the freedom and the power of the press. The press has been a vehicle to promote sport and increase its popularity for a long time. We publicized great achievements of athletes and conveyed their message to the public. We explained people what sport can do and its great values. We also keep our eyes on how sport is organized, and we have an important role to criticize when things are not handled properly. It is true that in this era of advanced technology and SNS, athletes can speak to the fans directly using those tools, or big clubs selling their contents on their own channels. But it is professional analysis of journalists that adds depth to the sports coverage, and storytelling of the sport writers that sheds light on what's happening behind the scenes. And as a watchdog of power and authority, we should never be pushed aside in the post-corona landscape. Thank you.
Arigato, Mr. Kobayashi. After Mr. Kobayashi, we are in Europe, in Italy, in Milano. Of course, we are in studio in Milano, but also the man who's supposed to be with us was editor-in-chief of Gazzetta dello Sport, Mr. Stefano Barigelli. He couldn't make it, but if he couldn't make it, his deputy editor-in-chief, Mr. Pier Bergonzi, can make it, and he will address to us. Welcome, Pier.
Hello, ciao, hello to everybody. Nice to be with you. I'm sorry my editor is not here, but leave me his words. And so, sports had never stopped before, not even during the two wars, but it came to a standstill all over the world because of COVID-19. The restarts we are going through, despite many difficulties, also offer some opportunities that we must be able to seize. First of all, the social function that sport has always had in history, in every age and in every latitude, has now become even more powerful. Any competition from any discipline combines not only the fans, but to entire country, the message that returning to normal is possible, that the world is now behind us. So, the sooner sport regains its normality, the sooner citizens will have the awareness that normality has been regained by each of them. Even without the public, even with the antivirus measures at the event, it's essential that every discipline push for the return to competition. The postponement of the European football tournament, and especially the Tokyo Olympic Games, have caused a shock that must be overcome. Next year, as we all hope, the vaccine will arrive and the Olympics will be held in a hot year. The Games will go down in history and will have mission only comparable to those of London 1948, which symbolically were the Olympic Games of the rebirth after a terrible war and left million deaths, a war that had divided the world. COVID has not been a war, and instead of dividing the world, is positively united. For example, in the joint international effort to find drugs that can cure and even eradicate it, and also what better way to symbolically represent this renewed and heartfelt union is not the Olympics Games, which were the first global event, but sport also has another opportunity. The difficulty of lockdown has taught that the selfish race towards the result as the only goal does not make sense. It's like if this month have reset many of our behaviors and some of our beliefs. Going back to how it was before, and if nothing had happened would be the worst of mistake. Sport must also aim to put an athlete back in the center, not the result, not the record or a goal. The press and the media in general must have the same awareness. Telling the exploit is fine, but better if they come together with simple human stories that give us the sense of this period better than a medal won. Our civilization has been wounded. Technique and frantic research are not everything. Indeed, they are nothing without the woman and the man in their sacred centrality. Sport was born to celebrate harmony, not the result. We have to go back to that. Thank you very much to all of you.
Grazie, Pierre. And the next European big name in sport journalism is from France. He is managing in a team of over 340 people in L'Equipe group. He has experience, he has knowledge, he worked on innovative projects with his group. So let's hear words from him, Mr. Jérôme Cazadier.
Bonjour à tous. Au préalable, je voulais remercier l'AIPS et Jenny Merlot de son invitation et d'avoir monté cette conférence qui est extrêmement importante. Comme tous les médias de sport, dont le chiffre d'affaires est encore très nettement dépendant des recettes du papier, la crise du coronavirus a été un accélérateur de décroissance. Nous n'avons pas encore mesuré tous les effets de la crise sanitaire à l'équipe, dans la mesure où le sport en France n'a pas redémarré et ne redémarrera qu'en août prochain. Mais il apparaît déjà assez clairement que nous allons nous retrouver dans une situation économique très délicate qui nous demandera d'accélérer notre transformation numérique et notre diversification. À ce titre, l'équipe a déjà entamé sa mutation numérique il y a 6 ans avec le lancement d'une offre payante en plus de notre offre gratuite. Nous sommes passés de 1400 à 287 000 abonnés numériques en 6 ans, ce qui est une vraie performance compte tenu de notre marché. Dans le même temps, nous avons repensé toute notre offre papier afin de rapprocher les usages print des usages numériques. Ainsi, en 2015, le quotidien est passé du format broadsheet au format tabloïd, ce qui nous a permis d'homogénéiser notre offre éditoriale. Le site et l'application L'équipe gèrent désormais le temps réel. Le tabloïd et le quotidien, lui, gèrent le rebond avec plus d'analyse et plus de profondeur. Nous avons repositionné tous nos magazines. Nous en avons un certain nombre. Le supplément du samedi, France Football, Vélo Magazine, pour qu'ils viennent enrichir notre offre éditoriale. Le magazine est plus sociétal aujourd'hui. France Football s'est focalisé sur le Ballon d'Or. Et l'idée, évidemment, c'est que ces titres-là viennent également gonfler notre offre commerciale avec des ventes papier et des campagnes d'abonnement qui ont été couplées. En parallèle, nous avons mis en place un plan progressif de rapprochement de nos équipes print et de nos équipes numériques, qui a débouché sur la fusion des rédactions en décembre 2018. Tous les journalistes de l'équipe aujourd'hui travaillent indistinctement sur tous les supports. Au registre de nos diversifications, nous avons investi dans une chaîne gratuite qui est passée d'un modèle d'information en continu à un modèle de chaîne diffusant des événements et des émissions. La chaîne aujourd'hui n'est pas encore rentable, mais elle suit une trajectoire d'audience et une trajectoire publicitaire intéressante qui pourrait nous permettre d'en faire un vrai relais de croissance rapidement. La nouvelle étape qui s'ouvre à nous, post-Covid, après cette crise effroyable que nous vivons, elle va être cruciale. Comment faire pour encaisser la baisse de nos revenus issus de la presse par nos abonnés numériques? Nous avons la chance de disposer d'un calendrier sportif favorable avec 4 années fantastiques qui s'annoncent. L'Euro, les Jeux Olympiques d'été en 2021, les Jeux Olympiques d'hiver, l'Euro féminin de football et la Coupe du Monde de football en 2022, la Coupe du Monde de rugby en France en 2023 et les Jeux Olympiques qui auront lieu à Paris en 2024. Nous devrons aussi proposer d'autres modes de narration à nos lecteurs, via nos formats les plus innovants, lancés depuis 7 ans sous la marque L'Équipe Explore. Ce sont des documentaires, des vidéos sociales, des podcasts natifs, des formats stories, afin d'attirer les nombreux annonceurs qui auront envie de nous accompagner dans cette montée en puissance du sport en France. L'équipe devra être le leader de ce mouvement sportif.
Merci beaucoup, Jérôme. And our next editor-in-chief is from Spain. He is from Marca, and Marca is a well-known newspapers all over the world. So let's hear Mr. Juan Ignacio Gallardo.
Buenas tardes, queridos colegas de la AIPS, y muchas gracias a los organizadores, estimado Gianni Merlo, por invitarme a participar en esta jornada. Lo primero, debemos felicitarnos todos por haber superado un desafío histórico y extraordinario. Durante 2 meses hemos sufrido un apagón informativo total. Nunca antes había sucedido. Esta ausencia completa de actividad deportiva a causa del coronavirus suponía un reto mayúsculo para todos nosotros. Teníamos que sacar adelante nuestros productos de información deportiva, papel, web, radio, televisión, sin información deportiva. Parecía una misión imposible y lo hemos logrado con resultados notables. Ha sido un gran éxito y creo que es para sentirnos todos muy orgullosos. Esta pandemia ha volteado el planeta y ha zarandeado la sociedad. Dentro de la gravedad de este escenario, es evidente que los medios de comunicación nos hemos visto muy afectados, principalmente en el soporte papel. Esto nos obligará a multiplicar nuestros esfuerzos y nuestra creatividad. Observo que la nueva normalidad nos amenaza con algunos riesgos importantes. Por un lado, el alejamiento respecto a los protagonistas y a los eventos deportivos. Confío en que las medidas se irán relajando con el paso del tiempo y que volveremos a asistir, como antes, a los espectáculos deportivos, pero seguro que se enfriará el contacto con los protagonistas, con los deportistas, porque en el mundo superprofesionalizado de la élite, las estrellas cada vez se alejan más del periodista. Los deportistas nos van sacando poco a poco de su territorio. Entrenamientos a puerta cerrada, ya no viajamos en sus mismos aviones, ya no podemos alojarnos en sus hoteles. Sospecho que tras esta pandemia el contacto con las estrellas se hará más difícil. Hay que hacer entender al deportista que esta distancia no la pone con la prensa, la pone con el aficionado, y eso a la larga es perjudicial para él. Otro riesgo destacable es la pérdida del hábito de compra de los periódicos de papel. El soporte papel, que ya estaba sufriendo, ha recibido un nuevo golpe letal con esta pandemia. Kioscos cerrados, ciudadanos sin poder salir de casa, con la consiguiente pérdida del hábito de comprar y la sensación de que ya no necesitan el papel para estar informados. Este es un problema serio y debemos buscar soluciones para incentivar la compra, personalizando la distribución, buscando otros canales de venta, potenciando la venta en bloque. En España, los bares y cafeterías eran los mejores compradores de prensa deportiva. El Marca estaba en casi todos los bares. Yo siempre pensé que el suelo de venta de papel sería, dentro de muchos años, los bares que nos compraban. Pero ahora nos encontramos con un problema mayúsculo. Los bares no quieren comprar los periódicos porque temen que el papel sea portador del coronavirus. Está demostrado que esto no es así, pero el miedo del cliente a un posible contagio a través del periódico nos está afectando mucho. Estoy trabajando en algunas ideas para poder combatir este gran riesgo para las ventas. Pero al mismo tiempo también debemos extraer enseñanzas positivas de esta pandemia. Pienso que la prensa deportiva tiene que ampliar su campo de acción. No podemos conformarnos con ofrecer solo información deportiva. Tenemos que ser también un canal de información de ocio y de entretenimiento. Durante el confinamiento se ha demostrado que el público también visita nuestras páginas web, incluso cuando no hay deporte, y consumen contenidos no deportivos que nosotros les ofrecemos. Hay que trabajar profesionalmente en ello. Hemos podido comprobar que no es tan indispensable como pensábamos estar absolutamente pegados a la actualidad. Por supuesto que no podemos perder de vista las noticias del día. Las breaking news son muy importantes. Por supuesto, hay que ofrecer muy buena información de los partidos en directo, pero el público también quiere consumir buenas historias. Reportajes bien elaborados, atemporales, con un mayor cuidado en la edición, en la presentación. No tengamos miedo a ofrecer buenas lecturas. Pienso que los actuales sistemas de medición están haciendo daño al buen periodismo. Se premia lo cuantitativo y nos obliga a abusar del clickbait. Deberíamos pelear entre todos por encontrar un sistema de medición que premie la calidad, que otorgue más importancia a los heavy users, al tiempo de permanencia en cada historia. Esto nos ayudará a hacer mejor periodismo. Será bueno para nosotros y bueno para la sociedad. Otra enseñanza positiva es la normalización del uso de la tecnología. A partir de ahora, no todos los eventos que organicemos han de ser presenciales, o las entrevistas. Esto nos tiene que servir para crecer en el terreno audiovisual, que es el preferido por las nuevas generaciones. Por no hablar del ahorro de dinero y de tiempo que supone la normalización de las videoconferencias y videoreuniones. Esta jornada es un grandísimo ejemplo. ¿Cuánto tiempo y dinero habría costado hacer esta jornada antes de la pandemia? Porque todos tenemos claro que la habríamos hecho de forma presencial, con el gasto en viajes, alquiler de un escenario, de hoteles. Las nuevas tecnologías vienen a ayudarnos. Hay que aprovechar su uso sin caer en el abuso. Por otro lado, también creo que en este momento la prensa deportiva somos una herramienta fundamental para ayudar en la reconstrucción emocional de la sociedad. El deporte es una locomotora de pasiones, de sentimientos, y la prensa deportiva son las vías por donde circula ese tren y esas sensaciones. Contando el deporte, vamos a ayudar a que los ciudadanos recuperen su fortaleza emocional previa al coronavirus. Somos el recreo de la sociedad. La gente viene a nosotros a relajarse, a divertirse, a disfrutar. La prensa deportiva pertenece a la gran industria mundial del ocio y del entretenimiento. Somos una actividad indispensable, una palanca de felicidad social. Nuestro objetivo debe ser convencer a los ciudadanos, a los aficionados, para que disfruten con nosotros, con la prensa deportiva. Tenemos que enamorar a la sociedad, que crean en nosotros, que confíen en nosotros. Los periodistas y los aficionados debemos establecer una relación estrecha. Hay que trabajar intensamente en el concepto de comunidad. Creo que el futuro del periodismo deportivo está todavía por construir y eso me encanta, porque lo vamos a construir nosotros. Se abren infinitas puertas y ventanas. Aprovechémoslas. Solo necesitamos dos cosas: saber adaptarnos y no perder la pasión. Debemos transmitir pasión. Hemos demostrado que podemos sobrevivir en las circunstancias más adversas. Esto nos tiene que hacer sentirnos fuertes. La prensa deportiva es fuerte. Siempre habrá historias que contar, siempre habrá un público que quiera escuchar, ver o leer esas historias y nosotros estaremos siempre ahí para contarlas. Muchas gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias, señor Gallardo. And last but not least is a lady from far, far away, from down under, from Australia. Some of you might have met her during the Olympic Games in Sydney, where she was the media informator manager. These days, you can hear her or see her in some of her TV or radio programs around the world. Welcome, Tracy Holmes.
Thank you very much, and happy Sports Journalism Day to everybody around the world. And I'd also like to welcome you to Oceania, being the only speaker from Oceania, which of course, as we know now, is the home of the FIFA 2023 Women's World Cup. And we're looking forward to welcoming you all for that. As you know, Australia is a small country with a very big interest in sport. Now, for a country of only 25 million, we're really proud of the fact that during the Sydney Olympic Games in 2000, we had a community of people from each of the 200 countries that came here to compete. No matter where in the world you came from, there was a community of supporters waiting to welcome you. We hope the same thing in 2023 if the world is allowed to travel again. But even with our overwhelming love of sport, unfortunately, we've not been immune to the same challenges that the rest of the world is facing because of COVID-19. When sports were shut down earlier this year and television companies decided against paying rights fees for sports that were no longer happening, sports governing bodies stood down or sacked many of their staff. Using COVID-19 as cover, media organisations began laying off staff, restructuring departments, and in some instances, closing down entire units. My employer, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, or the ABC, has this very week announced that 250 of my colleagues will be made redundant in the coming weeks. Before the ABC, News Corp announced most of its local community and regional newspapers would no longer be published right around the country. Some staff moved to online, but many others just had to walk out the door. Online sites have closed, television networks have trimmed staff, and our major paid television sports channel, Fox Sports, has shed more than 100 dedicated staff. In some cases, entire sporting programs just disappeared overnight. Australian Associated Press, which is our newswire that for decades has reported on the smaller sports that nobody else would cover, was facing total closure until a group of investors offered to buy the business and has at least saved some of those jobs. Our biggest leagues with major television broadcast deals have found themselves in a no-win situation, with networks now refusing to pay the agreed amount, even when competition has resumed. Sports are finding their fees being wound back to the tune of millions of dollars, setting off a downward spiral for the entire industry. In Australia, sport is worth between 2 and 3% of our GDP. It contributes around $15 billion to Australia's economy and has about 250,000 people employed in full-time jobs. That is now being eaten away. Some smaller sports may die altogether, while some junior teams, even from our most popular sports, may also disappear, as the cost to play remains the same, but too many families are finding they don't have work to support their kids playing anymore. While it's devastating for sports journalists to be caught up in this, the real tragedy lies in the fact that Australia's reputation as a sports-loving country, an outdoor country where kids love to play 2 or 3 or 4 sports a week, is disappearing. COVID-19's legacy is that Australia's sporting culture, including sports media, will be changed forever. Ironically, even as our government is praised for acting swiftly and efficiently with infection rates kept low, and the sad loss of life that we've seen all around the world has been kept to a minimum here in Australia, the economic impact has been severe. Media organisations are more often forming partnerships with sports, meaning it is in both their interest to talk up the sport. Critical coverage is rarely encouraged. Like others, journalists are being asked to do more for less, sometimes for nothing. Lines are being blurred. Journalists become publicists, publicists become fans. So where does this leave us? The reward for strong independent journalism is a strong independent society, because who but journalists will hold power to account? When you weaken journalism, you weaken society. While COVID-19 might not be entirely responsible, it has certainly accelerated the retreat from this position. Under the guise of COVID-19, governments, sports, and media corporations have made significant change. In days gone by, we might have said that the goalposts have shifted. That's no longer the case. Now we are playing on an entirely new field, a field where the rules are being rewritten. we must play a part in writing those new rules, lest they be written for us. I hope to see you in 2023, if not beforehand, in Tokyo 2021. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for your time.
And thank you, Tracy. And Tracy was our last panelist. I want to thank to all of the panelists who take part in this AIPS conference, because they were really good. Now, let's talk a little bit about AIPS Young Reporter Program. During the coronavirus, we started our e-college. One of the mentors was Riccardo Romani. Riccardo, how was it?
Thank you, Yura. It was an amazing experience, and it proves one point. One stereotype that I really hate is when colleagues of my age or even older, they tell me, well, the young reporters, they don't share the same passion we had in the past. They're not motivated as we were back then. Well, the past, as we all know, it's a very comfortable place to be stuck into. But I have to say that after almost 10 years into this young reporter program with IPS, I can tell you exactly the opposite. If journalism has a chance to survive, sport journalism especially, is very hard times, is because of the young generation that IPS is trying to help and develop. To me, it's been a great privilege. I come from a little bit of different world, and right now I was full-time journalist, but it was a great pleasure to work with these young kids in the last 9 years, and work also along with a great mentor that I must name, like Keir Ednich, Martin Masur, Roslyn Morris, and many others that helped here and there a little bit along the way. But I don't think today is the day we need to brag about what IPS has achieved. The hundreds of young reporters from 80 different countries, the 30 plus programs that we have realized. I think today is the day to discuss what young reporters has done for all of us as a journalist. There's a different perspective, but when you put in the same room a guy from Saudi Arabia, a guy from Ghana, a woman from United States, another one from Finland, and so on. And you see them discussing, exchanging information, sharing experience. In that very moment, you know that journalism, our profession, has a chance to survive. And this is really, I think, the lesson here. Young reporters are our insurance policy against those who see journalism as a threat, those who are, especially in this time, planning to shut down ethical journalism. So I believe we must continue as IPS to support young reporters. And it's not just what we can offer to them, it's mostly what they can provide to us, what we all can benefit from them. So my suggestion to all of you in your country is to embrace young reporter, because they're not even sports journalists as we were, as old generation grow up. Like I remember when I was young, I was covering an event, I was about making a sport report, and that's it. Now, young reporters are much better than us, I can tell you that, because they need to know about economy, they need to know about politics, social issues, and we need to help them. We need to provide them the platforms and the support they need. It's all about surviving. It's all in our interest, because again, as a journalist, we will survive as a community, or we will all perish as individuals. So it will be our duty, and in conclusion, I think that what we have done just a few months ago, the beginning of the lockdown, it's the evidence of what we can achieve working as a community. The e-college was an idea that came up right after lockdown. Gianni Merlo, the president of IPS, he always come up with 200 ideas, and of course, 10 of them are good, and we do it. And this one was particularly good. We organized it, we did it, and now we have a small video that explained better than I could do how that worked.
An impressive average of 70 journalists attended each class of the inaugural AIPS e-college program entitled Journalism in the Time of COVID-19 from April 2nd to June 2nd, 2020. The innovative distance learning program, which was launched by the International Sports Press Association, AIPS, served as a reliable cultural antidote to the unprecedented crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic. 16 intense classes via video conferencing platform Zoom offered young reporters from across the globe invaluable access to eminent personalities from the sports industry. In April, the AIPS e-college had the pleasure of welcoming Michael Payne, sports marketing expert, Edwin Moses, two-time Olympic gold medalist, Swiss lawyer Francois Carrad, Hans Hultmann, FIFA head of media, Maurizia Cacciatori, a former Italian volleyball star and sports commentator, Lucia Montanarella, head of Olympic Games media operations, and Craig Reedy, former WADA president. In May, more inspiring personalities graced the AIPS e-college with their presence. They include Ethiopian long-distance icon Haile Gebrselassie, Eric Saintron, FISU Secretary General, NBA star Danilo Gallinari, Donna Di Varona, two-time Olympic gold medalist, activist, and award-winning sports broadcaster, Fiona Hines, Special Olympics Europe and Eurasia Director of Communications, Mohamed Mo Oba Hakos, 2019 FIFA E-World Cup champion, Nawal El Mutawakil, Olympic gold medalist and IOC member, as well as Jamil Shade, Brazilian investigative journalist. AIPS President Gianni Merlo coordinated the classes, which also featured insightful lectures on journalism from seasoned AIPS mentors Martin Mazur, Kier Radnach, and Riccardo Romani. A virtual farewell gathering was held on June 2nd to celebrate the success of the first AIPS e-college, and participants received their certificates thereafter. On the whole, more than 100 young reporters from up to 50 countries took part in the program.
Good afternoon. Now I'm back to you, only first of all to thank all the panelists that have spoken till now, and also to introduce before the second part a new concept, because as Riccardo Romani has spoken before about the young reporter, but it is also his idea to organize from the 21st of July a seminar in 4 different steps about women and sport journalism and sport. I think that this will be very important because it's a completely new thing. It is a new step in the future that we are doing all together. And already Tracy and Christine has already told me that they will be happy to be part of this project because it's really something very important. And I guess that we have to continue on this way. And before to finish this first part, I want also to thank Josef Langer, our colleague from Austria, that has had the idea to celebrate the 2nd of July in this manner, because it was his idea to try to do something in these days, and I must thank him for the good suggestion, because today I think that we can be proud of what we have achieved. So now there will be 5 minutes of rest, and after we come back with the open discussion. Thank you very much to everybody.